Hello, welcome or welcome back to the Yarn and Yarns YouTube channel. My name is Angela and all the places you can find me should be linked in the description box below this video. Here on the channel you'll find me chatting about my adventures in knitting, spinning, crochet and weaving, all of the fibre related things. Today's video is all about spinning and more specifically all of the recent spinning projects that I have finished. It's been quite a few months since I have done any kind of making roundup, and I think it was probably 2 months ago now, maybe longer, who knows. Time and this year have been all sorts of strange. I did a knitting wrap up of some of the things that I've been working on, so if you're mostly here for the knitting then there is that video if you haven't yet watched it. I promised when I finished recording that I'd do a spinning wrap up as well, and I just haven't found the time. Today is the day that I'm going to be sharing with you all of my finished spins. Because it has been quite a few months, there is a fair amount to share with you. I hope not to keep you too long, and I also hope that once I've done this video, the rest of the year will be a little bit kinder to me time-wise, and I can get back to doing regular monthly or bi-monthly making roundups. I hope you will be interested in checking out what I've been spinning recently on my wheels and on my spindles, and that you have your own project to work on, whether that be knitting or spinning, and that you will settle in and spend the next 20 minutes, half an hour or so catching up with me as I chat about my spinning. So first things first, I was earlier in this year in the mood to work through a few larger spins. Oftentimes I'm just grabbing 100-gram braids from my fibre stash and spinning through things for fun, but earlier on this year I just felt the need to work on some larger quantities of fibre, so I've got some bigger spins to share with you first. So for the first few months of the year I was working on a quantity of fibre from the lovely YarnNYarns textiles, and I had approximately 600 grams of this fibre, and it was one of their Halloween specials from a couple of years ago, and the colourway was called Midsummer, and the fibre was a blend of 50% Exmoor Blueface, 30% Blueface Leicester and 20% Lustre blends. And I quite appreciated that they had the fibre blends on this card, because I've got a couple of other YarnNYarns specials that just tell you the colourway name and they don't say what the fibre blend is, and so I have to remember in future to make a note of anything that I might buy, because yeah, the details sometimes get lost to time. So yeah, it was nice to have that information on the label. I worked on this project, as I say, for a few months at the beginning of the year, and I actually finished it up in June. I spun this quantity entirely on my e-spinner. Now there's quite a lot of it. I don't know if I'm going to be able to hold it all up together, so I'll just share a few skeins first. But it's this lovely sort of moody sort of blue brown kind of colour. If I have any photos of the fibre in its original unspun state, I will try to remember to put one in. I'm not sure if I do or not. I need to get better with my spinning record keeping. But yeah, there was a mix of blues, oranges, browns, and I think a little bit of purple as well, if I remember rightly, in this fibre. And it's just spun up absolutely beautifully into one of these kind of moody colourways that has a lot of depth of colour. So the further away from it you get, it looks quite solid, but then the closer you get, you can see all of the flecks of colour in there. Let me attempt to hold up all 600-ish grams. There we go. I can do it. Yeah, I'm super happy with the spin. I spun it entirely on my e-spinner. I've got an Ashford e-spinner 3, which I've had for the last couple of years, and I spin quite a lot on that, because if you've followed my channel for a while, you'll know that when I'm at home I'm a bit of a floor dweller. I like to sit on the floor. I find it most comfortable to sit in a cross-legged position, and so that means that working on a treadle wheel is a little bit, not harder, but it's a little bit less comfortable for me to do that over a longer period of time. Whereas on my e-spinner I can literally set that up anywhere that I am. It's very portable. I'm not using my legs to treadle the wheel. It's motorised, so I can sit on the floor, find my comfy sort of lotus cross-legged position and spin away. It's quite nice when I've got a larger spin going, just to spend half an hour or so in the evenings, or a little bit more if I have time, and just steadily work my way through the fibre. So I've ended up with 596 grams. It's just under 1100 metres. So this has turned out to be a good DK-ish weight yarn, I think. Maybe sort of a heavier DK, light worsted. Hopefully at some point I will be able to find a nice sweater pattern for this yarn. I don't have anything in mind, so if you have any pattern suggestions, anything that you think might look nice in this yarn, then please do let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your suggestions. Moving on to my next quantity of fibre. Back in March, I think it was, I went to the East Anglia Yarn Festival while I was over that way in Norfolk in the UK visiting my dad, and on my way home I managed to drop in to that festival and I picked up 400 grams of merino fibre from the threshing barn. Colourway is neon, and you might have just seen from that label how reasonably priced some of the fibres from the threshing barn are. It cost me £4.50 for 100 grams of this fibre, and I picked up the fibre for a specific project. I'm hoping to knit a baseline at some point, and I'll pop a picture of that up on the screen if I remember. It's a side-to-side knit pattern, if I'm remembering rightly. I've got so many sweater patterns and cardigan patterns that I want to knit, I sometimes confuse myself. And so I decided to pick up this neon fibre for the sort of contrast stripes. And again, if I have a picture of what the fibre looked like before I spun it up, I'll pop that in here as well. Now, usually I'm not a very technical spinner. I just kind of let the fibre do what it wants, and 99 times out of 100 unless I try to do something different, I end up with a sport to DK weight yarn. The baseline uses a DK weight yarn, and of course the one time that I want a DK weight yarn, I've ended up with something a little bit finer. It's more like a 4-ply, perhaps a heavy fingering weight yarn. So I don't know if my spin is actually going to be suitable for the project that I have in mind. I've got a dark colour in my stash, a DK weight yarn, that I was hoping to pair this with. So I might have to do a little bit of swatching to see what they look like together, whether I can get close to the right tension with my two yarns to make it work for this pattern. But either way, I've got a gorgeous quantity of hand spun to use in some kind of sweater project in the future. Look at these. What a contrast to the John Arbon fibre, right? That really dark, moody, sort of complex colour that looks one thing from further away and something else when you get close up. This is just bright in your face. So yeah, 400 grams. And again, I spun this on my e-spinner. This was the project that went on to the e-spinner immediately after I finished that John Arbon fibre, and I finished it in a month, which shows you how much I was enjoying it. I finished this up, the last bit of it I finished at the beginning of the Tour de Fleece in July. So I've got 400 grams, and again, it's just over 1,000 metres. So compared to the 600 grams, which came out to be about 1100 metres, you can see this has spun up slightly finer. I might get away with it because sometimes when you swatch with hand spun, it just does magical things and becomes the thing you want it to be. And at the end of the day, as long as you are happy with the fabric that you're getting from the yarns that you're using, it doesn't really matter whether it's quote unquote standard DK weight or standard 4-ply or fingering weight. So yeah, I think it's going to be a case of knit it up and see. Next I have another John Arbon fibre spin to share with you, and this is a good example of me not knowing what the actual base of the fibre is. I picked this up at Wonderwall last year, 2023, and it was one of their Wonderwall specials. Now Wonderwall is a fibre festival here in Wales in the UK where I live, in case you're new to the channel and you haven't heard of Wonderwall before. And usually at these shows John Arbon do special colourways for that particular show. This colourway was called Raglin, and I got 200 grams. I actually spun this up on my treader wheel. So I do have a treader wheel. She is a vintage wheel. It's a Haldane Shetland. They don't make these wheels anymore. I've got a couple of videos back on the channel. If you're interested in seeing the wheel, then yeah, just search for Haldane on the YarnNYarns YouTube channel and there should be a video or two that pop up. She is called Edith. Yes, I do name my wheels. Not that I've got many. Yeah, this is my Raglin spin. Again, 2-ply. I tend to do a lot of 2-ply just to maximise the yardage from the fibre that I've got. I went down almost the same route as I did with my yarn purchases, where I would randomly pick up 100 grams of sock yarn to add to my stash if there was a dyer or a shop that I wanted to support but I didn't have a project in mind. And I've happened to do the same thing with fibre. I've got quite a lot of just 100 gram braids in my stash, which is fine. You can combine them, you can ply different yarns together. But I'm trying to be a little bit more mindful and maybe buy sort of larger quantities of colours that I like. Now in the case of this one, this Raglin colourway from John Arbon, I wish I'd bought a lot more. I love how this spun up. It's just so beautiful. Again, I'm afraid I don't know what the fibre composition is, but again it had oranges, whites and browns in the original fibre, and if I've got a picture of the original fibre before it was spun I shall pop that in. But yeah, this is the finished yarn. I love this so much and I wish I had a sweater quantity of this. Never mind, never mind. So I've ended up with approximately 560 metres, 200 grams. Maybe this will become the base of a vest or maybe some kind of shawl. I don't know. I just wish I had more. So we're now moving into what I spun during the Tour de Fleece back in July. What I've got left to share with you from my Tour de Fleece spinning is lots of mini skeins. If you watched my Tour de Fleece spinning plans video, then you'll know that one of my goals was to use up some bits and pieces of fibre that I had just hanging around from various things. So in July I spent a lot of time away from home, so I wanted some little spindle projects that I could sort of take with me and just spin on the go. So I've got a Ziploc bag here, sorry for the crinkling, with a bunch of yarn made up from those sort of fibres that I'd gathered. Now I've got two here that I haven't really bothered to measure because they're just teeny tiny little quantities. This one was a little bit that was left over from a previous YarnNYarns fibre club. I haven't done the fibre club on the website for ages, so I apologise for that. I hope to get back to it in 2025 perhaps. It's just been such a year. You know, if you've been around the channel for a while, that yeah, we've had lots of family stuff going on. I spun up a bunch of these Rolags that I had left over from, I think this was the very first fibre club I ever did, and then I found this one extra bit of the fibre, and this was Corriedale silk and sari silk. Yeah, I haven't bothered to measure that. And then I also had this little bat from Attic Spin Dye. The lovely Andy and Angela gifted me a big bag of bats that they'd started to make and then decided that they didn't want to carry on with that. So there's loads of merino fibre in a bag. There's some left behind me, but there was one smaller bat which had sort of purple and orange. So I just grabbed that and spun through that again. It's about 15 grams, I haven't measured that. Some of the things that I have measured, I had these Rolags, which were just a mix of all sorts of natural fibres, and I spun all of these, I should say, on my Turkish spindles. This one is 27 grams, about 50 metres, and yeah, as I say, there's all sorts of fibres in here. There's merino, Corriedale, I can't remember what else. Yeah, just a lovely little skein of naturals. Then I had another set of Rolags left over from a previous YarnNYarns fibre club. These were blues and browns in Shetland fibre, and these I chain plied. So having said that I mostly 2-ply my yarns, I've got a couple here which I chain plied for a change. So this is 30 grams and about 40 metres worth of chain plied Shetland. So I decided to chain ply this one to kind of keep some of the colour progression. so when I knit that up into whatever it becomes, it should be quite stripy. But again, it's just a little sample, so I'm not quite sure what that will end up in yet. And then the biggest quantity of sort of leftover bits and pieces from one of the YarnNYarns fibre clubs was this one. And again, I have chain plied it. This was a mix of Corriedale, bamboo and merino. And this is about 80 grams and 160 metres. And I'm actually hoping that I might be able to get a pair of mitts, fingerless mitts out of this. And again, I've chain plied it to try and keep some of the colour progression. There's mostly reds and greens in this. Some of the bamboo was almost like a goldy sort of yellow colour. Very happy to just kind of gather up those bits and pieces and get them spun through into those little samples, and it was perfect for my sort of travel spinning. The quantities of fibre were small. I could take my sort of Turkish spindle or my cross arm spindle, however you like to refer to them, which are really portable. You can kind of break those spindles down, shove them in a box with the fibre, and you can very easily work your way through a decent amount of fibre on that spindle while you're on the go. Back at the start of the year, I want to say, I was very kindly gifted by one of our community members, Sharon. She sent me a box of fibre. There were some 50-gram quantities, which are behind me in my fibre cart waiting to be spun up. Also included, and the thing that I knew she was going to send me, was an advent calendar, a fibre advent that she hadn't got around to spinning. It was a fibre advent from Wonderful Wool. And when I received that package, I decided to save that and make that a sort of tour de fleece advent in effect. So I actually have 3 bags worth of mini skeins here. I'm not going to unpack the skeins from the bag because that will just end up in chaos. Each of the quantities of fibre were about 25 grams, so it was quite a generous advent. Hopefully the glare on the plastic is not too much and you can get to see all of the fabulous colours that were in this advent. I haven't yet measured these. They were all sorts of different fibres. Merino, Rambouillet, Blueface Leicester. There were some blends with silk. Shetland, like literally everything that you can probably think of was likely in this advent. So as I say, I haven't yet measured those. I think most of them are fairly consistent. I spun all of those on my e-spinner and 2-plied them. Yeah, I haven't measured the meterage in these mini skeins yet. As you can imagine, it's going to take quite some time to go through all of these and measure them out. I do, I think, still have photographs of each of the fibres, and I can obviously photograph my finished yarns. And I'm thinking about maybe doing a written blog post and putting it up on my Patreon page, more as a record for me than anything else. But if there's enough interest in that, then I will go ahead and do that, and I can make that a publicly viewable post so that you don't have to be a member of the Patreon community to see it. So if that's something that you might be interested in seeing, let me know. If there's enough interest, I will definitely do it. I might use those as a basis for a Jethro cardigan. You've probably seen the Jethro if you hang out on Instagram or if you've watched a bunch of YouTube videos, because it's been quite a popular pattern. It's a granny square based cardigan, I think it's a cardigan, but it also has, I think, knitted sleeves, knitted button band, if I'm remembering. So there's both crochet and knit elements to it. And so I'm thinking if I can find a base colour to go with all of these, that these could be the centres of my granny square. And some of them are slightly different thicknesses. Obviously the fibres were all different, so they spun up slightly different. But I think I can pick out enough of a similar weight to make consistent enough granny squares to have myself a Jethro. Let me know what you think on that. And have you made a Jethro? What were your experiences? Did you mix and match your yarns, or did you pick out everything that was the same? You know, I'd love to know. Now, since the end of July, I have been doing quite a lot of spinning, but I don't really have a lot of finished yarns from that spinning to share with you yet. I'm not going to share my works in progress with you in this video because this video is probably already long enough. So yeah, I've got a few things that are in progress and I will share with them in upcoming making roundup videos. I do only have really one skein of yarn that I finished since July, since the Tour de Fleece, and this is my most recent finish. And again, this was spun on my Turkish spindle. I've been really enjoying having one project on my supported spindles, one project on my, oh no, I'm lying, I've got one more quantity to share with you. Bear with, I've got a support spindle finished project to share. I thought we were down to the last, but I've got 2 left to share. So yeah, I've been really enjoying, let's get back to the point, having something on my e-spinner, something on my treader wheel, something on my Turkish spindle, something on my support spindle, something on my drop spindles. Was that all of the things? Maybe I duplicated some of those. And then just working through them, you know, at my leisure, at their own pace, whenever I have 5 minutes. So this is my most recent finish on my Turkish spindle. I just grabbed a random braid of fibre from my stash. No plans for this one, just wanted to spin something. This was my portable project that I started kind of after the Tour de Fleece, and I've only recently finished it because, as I say, I'm just working at a really slow pace, just as and when I've got 5 minutes to spin. This was some blended top from Spin Jones. It's the Kingfisher colourway and a combination of merino, bamboo and mulberry silk. 100 grams ish, and it is approximately 205 meters. All of the measurements I've given you today are approximate. I've not put any of them through my yarn counter. I've literally just laid out the skeins, measured them, counted out how much I've got. So all of the measurements are very approximate. This was a 2-ply. I tend to ply on my e-spinner. I don't think I mentioned that. So I tend to spin on my spindles and then ply on my e-spinner just for ease, and that, you know, I can fit lots of yarn on my e-spinner bobbins, whereas it's harder for me to fit a lot of yarn onto a spindle when I'm plying. It's my recently finished skein. And then finally, recently on my support spindles, I had a bag of mystery bats, and again, I have not measured these yet, so I apologise for that, but I had a bag of mystery bat bits, I think it's called, mixed mystery bat bits, again from Spin Jones. Obviously I've been on a Spin Jones kick for whatever reason. They just happened to obviously be in arm's reach when I wanted to grab my next spin, and I worked through these on my support spindles. I've ended up with a bunch of mini skeins from that too. I will get these ones out of the bag because that's a very sort of crinkly cellophane-y kind of plastic. So here are all my mini skeins, mostly kind of pastel-y colours, which aren't my usual wheelhouse, but they're very pretty nonetheless. And I'm contemplating knitting up a cowl from these. I've got 100 grams ish worth of fibre, and these have all turned out to be about 4-ply. I can mostly spin a little bit finer on my support spindles. I spin from the fold most of the time on my support spindles. It's just a lovely way to spin. I really enjoy it, just getting a really nice rhythm, long draw from the fold, and oh, it's just yeah, I can't express enough how much I enjoy that kind of spinning. I could sit and spin like that for hours and hours if I had hours and hours to spare. Anyway, final spin of the video. I hope you have enjoyed my little spinning roundup. Thank you for sticking with me. I know it's been quite a lot. I appreciate your time and your company. Let me know in the comments below if you are a spinner, what you have been spinning up recently. Have you been working on spindles? Have you been working on wheels or e-spinners? And what fibres have been capturing your attention? I think I would find it hard to pick a favourite spin out of all of those. The fibres has just been so different. I can't wait to work with all of these yarns. When I'm going to find time to work with all of these yarns, I don't know, but that's a problem for future Ange. If you're not a spinner, of course, just let me know what you're working on. I always love to chat fibre crafting with you in the comments below. So yeah, just say hi and share what you're up to. I love to be inspired by what you're doing. I will, of course, be back again soon with some more making content. As I say, I hope to get back to regular wrap-ups again, time permitting. I miss doing them, and yeah, it's kind of nice to share my progress with you as we go, rather than in just one big long video like the last couple. So yeah, anyway, I'll be back again soon with some more making content, so I hope you will join me for the next video. Until we do get to spend time together again, I hope you get to do some other things that you enjoy. Great big woolly hugs to you all. Bye for now. Bye.